A simple whistle, ascending at the end, easy to imitate. It's the hour when the light departs, converting the trees into silhouettes, and the evening blue leaves the slopes of the Cerro Islá. A simple whistle that I've never heard before, only in recordings. The months of study crystallize in an instant, and I'm almost running, the whistle calling me onwards, passing the milpa and the nopales, the starfruit and the cempasúchil, the beloved garden of Grandfather Teo, passing the mangoes, entering the jungle. The crickets are the voice of the approaching night. This whistle, the mystery of the twilight. The mystery is this. Why is each day here different? Why does the earth give us so many chances, so many guides to learn from? The voice of each bird sings its story, its relationship with the living earth. The bud of every plant is a universe in waiting, and they all wait for us. What will we do? Will we learn the humble magic of the milpa, of thousands of generations of hands caring for the corn and the beans, the squash and the chile, the firewood and the manure, the cacao and the guanabana, so that our footprints may be gardens of flowers and jungles where the thicket tinamou gives this simple whistle at sunset? Or will we tear apart the earth so that our food only comes from the supermarket, so that it carries the ghosts of the birds and the beetles that once lived where a monoculture crop creeps to the horizon? It's not a rhetorical question. Large-scale mechanized agriculture continues growing across the planet, the primary global cause of biodiversity loss, in spite of climate change, another huge and growing threat. Industrial agriculture is an enormous and efficient system, difficult for anyone, farmers or consumers, to change. Efficient for saying goodbye to rainforests, milpas, insects, tinamous. Efficient for selling us candy and snacks, diabetes and cancer, for losing our connection with the earth. But it's not inevitable. Every milpa, every shade-grown coffee farm within the intact rainforest, every attempt to form a healthy relationship with the earth opens up a different possibility. Welcome to Wild with Nature. I'm Shane Sater. This story is from January 2025 and is called Mystery of the Twilight, Birds at Dusk and Sustainable Agriculture. If you'd like to read the written version of this story, illustrated with my photos from the field as you listen, you can find it on my website, wildwithnature.com. And now, let's continue with the story. We all have these practices in our ancestral lineages. Here in Mexico, the system of the milpa is one of them. From the land where I was born, among the mountains and valleys of the Pacific Northwest of the United States, there are the indigenous traditions, stewarding habitat for salmon, cedar, camas, huckleberry. I suppose that somewhere in my European roots is a tradition of tending fruits, because they've always fascinated me. My mom has vivid childhood memories of picking raspberries with her grandma Jessie. As a kid, I used to go huckleberry picking with my dad. Before he died, we went out in the evening to observe noctuid moths pollinating the cherries in his orchard. An orchard of old fruit trees without pesticides, where the red-naped sapsuckers drilled wells in the tree trunks, and the pileated woodpeckers visited in the fall to feed on apples. There were enough to share. We dried apples, plums, and cherries, and I grew up craving this dried fruit. I wasn't very interested in candy, because dried fruit from the orchard was so much better. All of these traditions, and many more, offer us another way forward, together with the birds and the plants, the fungi. A way that gives us healthy food and gives the animals habitat to flourish. The thicket tinamou continues singing. The earth gives us so many chances, and the voice of each bird tells its story. Grandfather Theo tells me that there used to be wild quail here, but they disappeared. Maybe it was because of an increase in insecticide use in the area, he says. I continue to listen for the quail at sunset. Perhaps one day I'll find them, like the thicket tinamou whistling now from the forest close to the Rio Sal, this timid bird of the dense vegetation. It's kind of like a chicken, except that it doesn't scratch with its feet. Using its beak, it seeks out seeds, beetles, and fallen fruits. It nests on the forest floor during the hot spring and the rainy summer. Along with the tinamou, do you hear that nasal cry? Now it's gotten closer. It's a collared forest falcon, hunter of birds and squirrels, a bird that hides in the jungle and nests in cavities in the caoba and other big trees. And now the Middle American screech owl begins its nocturnal trill. This insectivorous owl that hunts grasshoppers and beetles at the edge of the plantings. In the distance, the mottled owl hoots, larger than the screech owl. It also feeds on many insects at the edge of the forest. The common pauraques have emerged from the dense bushes where they passed the day. I can see them in the deepening darkness, these nighthawk-like birds perching on the clay of the track. They flutter under the crescent moon, hunting beetles, moths, and other flying insects. Sometimes I hear their liquid calls and their song, per-wee-oo. The fireflies are glimmering above the shadows of the milpa. Clusters of stars hang suspended above the guardian silhouette of the Cerro Islá. A while ago, the thicket tinamou stopped whistling. But I know it's still there, in the leaf litter of the rainforest. The Middle American screech owl continues singing. The earth gives us so many chances to learn. The voice of each bird tells its story. The milpa shows us how we can live with fields of flowers and diverse forests. And all of the animals wait for us. What will we choose? Thanks for listening. If you'd like to delve more into sustainable agriculture and biodiversity, I've shared several links with the written transcript of this story. In particular, I recommend Lorna Milne's poignant and deeply personal essay, Losing Ty, and Luke Hintigan's review of the inspiring book, The Third Plate. This story, and the whole project of Wild with Nature, is possible thanks to the support of listeners like you. This support includes those of you who simply share this podcast with your families, friends, and communities. My collaborators and fellow naturalists who appear in these stories, and my supporters who give me the donations I need in order to continue. Again, you can find the written, illustrated version of this story on my website, wildwithnature.com. There, you can also make a monthly donation through Patreon, or a one-time contribution in support of my work. Thank you. This story about the nocturnal birds of the coast of Oaxaca, Mexico, alludes to the importance of insect diversity and intact ecosystems for birds and all life. It's something I've touched on in other stories, such as the podcast from last summer, A Hopeful Sign for a Bird in Decline, about Montana's tree swallows, as well as one of my oldest stories, Lunch on the Fly. And it's a theme that I'll continue exploring next month, with a story from Montana, USA, about owls, moths, and a project that is documenting the diversity and importance of these flying insects. The moths, that is, not the owls. Until then, get outside. And while you're out there, I invite you to think about the lands that produce the food that you eat. Are they good habitat for birds and other animals? And if not, what might we improve?